Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. They've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career, made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the Manning.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish, ready for another full day of NBA recaps as we have a couple of series on the brink of ending later this week. We'll break it all down with Dexter Henry of the New York Post. Also talk some Major League Baseball with Matt Lutovsky of Sporting News. And for the latest in the National Hockey League and the Stanley Cup, we bring in our very own Jo Madden for the latest best of 7 series, getting closer to the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals, both in the NBA and in the NHL, and a huge surprise in the NBA lottery last night. We'll get to that in just a minute. But the first, maybe the biggest surprise thus far of the NBA playoffs, as the New York Knicks are on the verge of eliminating the Boston Celtics. They're up 3-1 in their best of 7 series after getting a win at Madison Square Garden last night, trailing by 10 at one point. They come all the way back to win 121-113. The story once again was the second half for the Knicks, and it was once again Jalen Brunson, who had 39 points and 12 assists. He also had 18 points in the third quarter. It's been blowing leads for the Celtics. That's really been their story. And we'll see if the Knicks can indeed close it out as they head back to Boston later this week. But first, let's hear from Jalen Brunson, who still is not taking the Celtics lightly.
It's easier said than done. But the one thing I have to do is respect my opponent, knowing that it's not going to be easy, knowing it's going to be tough, and knowing that I could get got. But I'm not going to be afraid to do so. I'm going to go out there and just give it everything I got, and put myself and my team the best chance to win a game. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, just got to find a way. Whoever's out there, whatever it takes, and just find a way. So, find a way. And not like we planned to be in this position, but we are where we are, and got to find a way to win Game 5.
And the Celtics have had a lot of adversity in the past and have come back to win series, but they may have to do it without their superstar Jason Tatum, who had 42 points last night before leaving the game with a non-contact lower leg injury. No word as of yet to this morning as to Tatum's status, but seemingly very much up in the air, pending an MRI, according to head coach Joe Mazzulla.
No, not yet. It was a lower body injury. He's going to get an MRI tomorrow. He's with the doctors now.
Did they able to do any tests on site for any
I didn't ask him. I just got the update from him. I just asked him how he was doing. So I'll get the MRI tomorrow, and we'll see what it is.
How concerned is that for you guys right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously always concerned about someone's health. So it's twofold. We're concerned about his health, where he's at, and then we're concerned about what we have to do better for Game 5 when we get back to Boston.
Duke.
Joe, was it the Achilles or was it the ankle itself? And was it contact? Because there was some contact.
I have no idea. I got back there, talked to the medical staff. They told me it's a lower body injury, and they're going to get an MRI tomorrow. So, we'll see where it goes from there.
And we'll get an update, I'm sure, in the coming hours on the status of Tatum. Meanwhile, the status of the Minnesota Timberwolves appears to be on the verge of moving on to the Western Conference Finals. They take care of business last night against the Warriors, 117-110. Golden State still playing without Steph Curry, and it clearly is the difference. Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle had 30 points apiece. Randle has been fantastic for Minnesota in the playoffs. The Warriors needed Jimmy Butler to come up in a big way. He had just 14 points last night. It was close until late in the third, and then Minnesota pulled away. Here's Anthony Edwards on the verge of getting to the Western Conference Finals with one more win.
At halftime, Coach came in and just said, we playing like we already won the series pretty much, and I don't really like that. And I didn't like how we was playing overall, and I didn't like how I was playing individually, so I knew I had to pick it up.
What had to change the most, or what did you change?
Our defense. We was letting Jonathan Kuminga just get everywhere he wanted to go. Draymond was pushing the pace. We wasn't impacting the ball unless he was crossing half court. Offensive rebounds, we wasn't boxing out. We wasn't limiting those guys to one shot. Just game plan mistakes that can't happen if you want to beat a championship team and if you want to go to the finals, or Western Conference Finals at least. You can't let those things happen, so we got to be better.
Well, Ant got going, and we decided to go to a bigger lineup with JK and Trace, Draymond, Jimmy, just to try to slow them down and slow Ant down. And obviously didn't work. They kept scoring, and we couldn't score. So we just lost our ability to connect the game there in that third quarter, and they got loose, and that was the difference in the game.
The biggest surprise of the night in the NBA wasn't actually on the court. It was the NBA lottery. The Dallas Mavericks, with just a 1.8% chance of landing the number one overall pick, they get it done. And so they now have the opportunity, if they choose, to take the number one ranked prospect coming out of college into the NBA. That is Duke's Cooper Flagg. So the Mavericks, of course, trading Luka Doncic, and now seemingly could have a replacement pretty quickly for him, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. All right, on the ice, the Hurricanes beat the Capitals last night 5-2, so they're now up 3-1 in the series. They were very heavily favored to do so. One-score game with 5 minutes to go. Hurricanes scored 2 goals late to push ahead for the win. Earlier in the game, Washington had a 4-minute power play, but they only got one shot off, which could have been the difference of the game. Here's Spencer Carberry, the head coach of the Capitals, knowing what they're up against.
We're giving ourselves some opportunities. We're just not executing, making the play, whatever you want to call it, and making some mistakes, and they're capitalizing.
The Taylor Hall's goal, I don't know if you have a chance to watch that back.
Yeah, I did.
How is he that open at that point? Did he just not backcheck and kind of?
Yeah, both our D lost basically track of that there was a guy in behind, so our forecheck and failed forecheck, and then both D are down.
Spencer, what did you make of the 4-minute power play at the end of the first? How difficult it was to enter the zone, and how key was it to not come up with a?
Well, I saw what everybody else in the room saw. It was not good, and so we made some adjustments, made some changes to personnel on it. But you can't, their penalty kill is excellent, best in the league, has been for the last 5 years, call it. But it can't look like that. It cannot look like that.
Meanwhile, Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers are also one step away from moving on in their Western Conference series with the Vegas Golden Knights. 3-0 to go up 3-1. They pitch a shutout as Edmonton is on the verge of doing what they did a year ago. Meanwhile, in the National Football League, today is schedule release day. Some leaks coming out right now in the NFL. We already know that the opener is going to be Cowboys at Eagles on Thursday, September the 4th. Some games have been added to the leaked schedule. November the 10th, Monday Night Football, Eagles, Packers. Seems like the Eagles schedule's out. Bears, Eagles, Commanders. We'll get all of it tonight, and then we'll break it down for you tomorrow. Meanwhile, Trey Hendrickson says Bengals have cut off contract talks. He wants to stay long-term in Cincinnati, but they have not been able to work that out. And also, Cleveland Browns' Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah has been placed on the physically unable to play list, and he could be out for the season for the Cleveland Browns. All right, in Major League Baseball last night, the New York Mets take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. How did you think this one was going to go? Well, the Mets win. And they did not beat Paul Skeens, but they did win the game. 4-3 was the final. Pete Alonso hit a walk-off sac fly in the 9th inning. Meanwhile, the Nationals are struggling in a big way. They've lost 6 in a row. Alex Verdugo for the Braves, walk-off single to propel them over a win over the Nationals. By the way, Ronald Acuna Jr. begins his rehab assignment today, so they could get him back over the next few weeks. Taylor Ward hit a grand slam, 6th and 9th inning. The Angels come all the way back to beat the Padres 9-5. They beat Robert Suarez. He had converted 18 consecutive save opportunities, and the hottest team in baseball right now are the St. Louis Cardinals. Mason Wynn hits a late home run. The Cardinals beat the Phillies 3-2. The Cards have won 9 straight games. We'll take a quick timeout and hit on some more baseball with Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News after this.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
they
does.
They played side by side
yes.
with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't
the
that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing
him
your
because
thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not
a 7th-round pick
There were 2
who didn't even play good.
Quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Matt Lutovsky in the house from Sporting News. Been a busy week of news in Major League Baseball. A couple of managers sent packing. There's some rumors that maybe we could even have another one over the next couple of weeks. Let's bring in Matt Lutovsky to discuss it all, Matt. Let's start off with the Pirates. Paul Skeens pitches yesterday against the New York Mets, does what he does. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. Pirates still lose. We also know that Derek Shelton is no longer the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Also, Bud Black was fired by the Colorado Rockies. You don't generally, Matt, see managers fired this early in the season in May, let alone 2 managers. We could even have more. I guess we'll see. They got an initial bump, it felt like, with Pittsburgh when they made the move. And, there was seemingly playing a little bit harder. But dare I say, for the Pirates and for Paul Skeens, this may be a little bit of a lost season.
It's starting to feel that way, and I think a lot of us went into the season with high hopes for them and thought they could make a nice run, and obviously Skeens would be the centerpiece to that, but it just really hasn't been there. The offense hasn't been there, the bullpen hasn't been there, and you look at yesterday's game, and you mentioned Skeens pitched well. It wasn't necessarily an overly dominant start, or maybe didn't quite have his best stuff with 3 walks and 6 Ks in 6 innings, but he left. They had a lead. They had a chance to win that game and immediately gave it up and didn't have a lot of additional run support, and that was that. And you might be able to get by with those kind of starts against some of the lesser teams of the league, but they were playing a really good team, and it just isn't enough. So it just doesn't feel like they're going to be able to put it together, and they're going to be able to find it. And whatever moves they make, Skeens didn't sound too upset that they got a new manager now.
Right.
He was kind of like, yeah, whatever, someone's got to go. So I don't know. This is going to be, I think, maybe a long summer, unfortunately, for the Pirates in a season where they went in with so much kind of hope and optimism.
Yeah, and Skeens announced that he will play for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic earlier this morning as well. He's moved ahead, by the way, Matt, of Yoshinobu Yamamoto to win the Cy Young. Based off Yamamoto's last start, I'm going to guess. This is kind of like varying back and forth, but I guess I would ask you at this point, like, the guy who gets the least respect always on this list, because he never, he never pitches 8 innings and strikes out 15. He just, pitches his 7 innings. He strikes out 7. He gives them 2 earned runs, and he goes about his business, is Zach Wheeler, who's always in the mix for the Cy Young Award. But on FanDuel, he is 7-1. Hunter Green currently hurt. I don't know that you could take that risk, but Skeens, Yamamoto, Wheeler, those are the favorites. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's a good group. I mean, I like Webb a lot too. I think he gets undervalued a lot as well. And when we have these discussions, I know right now he's leading in Fangraphs WAR among that group. It's very tightly contested, of course, this early in the season still. But yeah, that's a good group. I think any one of those guys, it wouldn't shock me if at the end of the year they won the Cy Young. But I think people like to bet on Paul Skeens for obvious reasons. He's the biggest star. But if and wins don't matter obviously as much as they used to, and team success for Cy Young doesn't matter as much as MVP for sure. But at the same time, if you're still on a last place team, I think it just makes it a little tougher to really get there. You really got to set yourself apart, and I don't think Skeens has quite done that yet. So I definitely think it's still a race.
All right, Diamondbacks end up beating the Giants. Giants have slipped back a little bit in the NL West. Corbin Carroll hit a couple of home runs. He's had a great third season. He had a great rookie season, sophomore slump. He's back once again. Diamondbacks are playing good baseball, but, sort of hard to call at this point with that NL West. It's arguably the best division in baseball, Matt, to this point. Look, I definitely think at the end of the season, Arizona is going to be right there. I know they're only 22-20 right now. I'm still a little shaky on the Giants. I know they're off to this really good start, being 6 games over 500. If you look over on FanDuel, the Diamondbacks actually have shorter odds to win the division than the Giants. But do you see 3 teams maybe coming out of this and making the postseason? I can't see 4. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, four's a bit much for sure, but they have 4 teams that are capable of it. So it's probably just going to come down to injuries. Maybe who makes that extra move can stay healthy, because I think all of us feel really good about those top 2 teams in the division right now making it. So yeah, these 2 teams playing each other, they're very similar, but in opposite ways. Like one's got good pitching, hitting's not that great. One's got good hitting, pitching hasn't been that great. And which is kind of reflected in the run differential, where the Giants have that plus 34, but that's mostly because they've been holding teams down, whereas the Diamondbacks just, are playing about even. But I think that overall they have more talent, and if they can just sort of stabilize things a little bit on the mound, they're going to be really tough. And I think you talked about the odds. I would agree with those odds. I think they are the better team, but the Giants are really good at home, and they have really good pitching, and those are usually those are 2 ingredients for success deeper in the season, and that's the kind of team that can maybe surprise too in the postseason if they get there. So it's a fun race, really good teams almost every night. You get a good matchup from these teams, and you never know. And even when you throw in the Rockies, you never know what you're going to see. Might see something you've never seen before. So it's to me the best division in baseball.
Yeah, definitely so. Tonight, by the way, the Dodgers do play the Sacramento A's. They're pretty big favorites, more than minus 200, depending on where you see this here. Dodgers, certainly are just throwing openers out there. Pretty much 2 out of every 5 times they pitch. The A's have Jeffrey Springs tonight pitching. And look, I really don't have necessarily a strategy of fading the Dodgers, Matt, because that's not the smart thing to do at this point. But, the Dodgers cannot win every game. So I guess you got to sort of flip that coin. And if you do, you may get 2-1 on your money, depending on the night with the Dodgers. They're almost minus 150 or 200 every night.
Yeah, they are. And I think, too, that's another team where, it's interesting with baseball and home and road records and what does it, mean? Well, all I know is the Dodgers always win at home. I know that much. So that sort of, you start factoring that into your decision, how much you want to, weigh that. But yeah, they're a phenomenal team. It's not a surprise. We all knew that going into the year that they were going to be tough to win, and they have the kind of depth that can withstand injuries, and they just keep, coming back and coming back. And with the A's, I think, they're a fun story. They're off to a nice start. I think they're fun to watch, and it's just an odd viewing experience when you watch their home games. But we've seen it these last couple series now. They haven't been as sharp, lost a couple series, and now they go and they play another really good team. So you start to wonder if maybe a little bit of a fate is about to start happening for them. But it's going to be an interesting game. I like the Dodgers, but that's not exactly a news flash, and I'm not going out on a limb when I say that.
No, definitely not the case. All right, Matt, enjoy all the games tonight. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. We'll check back with you again next week.
I appreciate it.
All right, Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News. The National Football League schedule, as we mentioned, comes out later tonight, so I'm sure Pharrell will have more on that later today. But Ben Stevens has an opinion on what the New Orleans Saints without having Derek Carr. We'll break it down for you.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I don't know what he was doing taking step-back threes at the end of that regulation when he's got bigs on him and he should be driving to the hole.
It's already bad enough that I'm playing with all these NBA and D1 studs that are unstoppable, and I'm the worst one there, and I can still ball with them. But if I start calling fouls, they'll revoke my privileges. Like, I man up when I play with them.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Time to dive into the latest in the National Football League and what's next for the New Orleans Saints. Also, the Oklahoma City Thunder need some help here to get by the Denver Nuggets. They play tonight, as well as the Indiana Pacers on the verge of knocking off the Cavs. Those are our topics here on the SportsGrid Sound Off. Well, it would appear the New Orleans Saints could be headed toward a rebuild. We got word late last week that Derek Carr no longer going to be the quarterback of the Saints or anybody else. He's decided to retire. It certainly leaves the Big Easy at somewhat of a crossroads going into next season with a drafted rookie, the rookie that was taken in the draft a couple of years ago, and another veteran. Where do they go from here? Here's our very own host of the early line, Ben Stevens, on the future of the Saints.
So Derek Carr has retired. Who's the next starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints? Of course, the Saints, early in round number 2 of the 2025 NFL Draft, selected Tyler Shuck, the quarterback out of Louisville that spent 7 seasons playing college football. So he might be a rookie signal caller, but he is a little bit older than his other first-year players. He will be 26 years old by the time the middle of September rolls around. And according to our friends at the Canadian FanDuel Sportsbook, Shuck is now a minus 186 favorite to be that week 1 starter in the Big Easy under rookie head coach in Kellen Moore. The other options, Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, who each started games this previous season in New Orleans. An uncertain future, Craig, where the Saints now have a win total of just 5.5 entering 2025. Craig, we'll send it back to you.
One of the lowest win totals on the board. In fact, the lowest in the NFC to date, 5.5 New Orleans Saints. All right. Meanwhile, speaking of the other side of the coin, biggest favorite in the NBA playoffs over the last week or so has got to be tonight. Oklahoma City, double-digit favorite tonight to win and then have another game with the Denver Nuggets. This thing could go 7. But it's going to be the offense of Oklahoma City that's going to dictate whether or not they can beat the Nuggets and, by the way, cover this line tonight. Here's their head coach, Mark Daigneault, on the opportunity.
And so that's where I talk about shooting resilience. Like, we have to continue to step into those shots and shoot them with confidence, because if you get a pretty good shot, above our threshold on a possession and you don't shoot it, the chances of you getting something better on that same possession are very low. And the guys have done a good job of that. We're teeing up those shots in the way that we would hope to. And then the other way to look at that is, so I say that to say I would expect it to regress to the mean if we continue to get good looks. The other way to look at it is, I think we've done a really good job in this series of being very competitive on a lot of poor shooting nights, where we shoot below expectation. And we've done that by manufacturing the game. It starts with defense, but then rebounding, offensive rebounding specifically, getting out in transition. We've won that battle so far through 4 games, and trying to get to the rim. The rim was kind of shut off for both teams last game, but we outscored them at the rim last game. So we have to continue to control what we can control with that, control what we can control with the quality of the shots, and just keep stepping into them with confidence.
And then finally, we get to this matchup tonight between Cleveland and Indiana. It's the Cavs' last gasp at pushing this series to another game. Indiana's been the better team in the series, but they still need to close out Cleveland tonight. Can they do it? Here's head coach Rick Carlisle on the opportunity.
How much have you seen this group sort of apply lessons that it went through last year? Basically, in New York, obviously, you had a 3-1 lead going into Milwaukee last year, saw what that experience is like to go and try to close somebody out in Game 5 at their place. What kind of lessons do you think you guys take from that circumstance?
I mean, it's all cumulative, and it's all experience. It's not the where, it's the how. We've just, we've got to approach things in a way that gives us the best chance to do the things we need to do, which is to play hard, to play together, to play unselfish, to take care of the ball, to rebound better, those kinds of things. So we have a very good idea of the kind of environment it's going to be tomorrow, the kind of desperation. They're going to, they'll play their best game, and we've got to be ready, and it's going to be extremely difficult.
And we'll cover all the action for you tonight on In-Game Live, so make sure you keep it locked here on SportsGrid. We'll take a quick time out here on the show. When we come back next, Dexter Henry is going to join us, courtesy of the New York Post, reviewing the Knicks and Celtics from last night, and then Dexter will weigh in on his thoughts tonight on the Pacers and Cavaliers. More NewsWire up next.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games, it's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I don't know what he was doing taking step-back threes at the end of that regulation when he's got bigs on him and he should be driving to the hole.
It's already bad enough that I'm playing with all these NBA and D1 studs that are unstoppable, and I'm the worst one there, and I can still ball with them. But if I start calling fouls, they'll revoke my privileges. Like, I man up when I play with them.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Let's recap the latest games in the NBA and also get a preview of tonight's games as well with Dexter Henry of the New York Post. He joins us now, and certainly Dexter is going to be busy here over the next couple of days. I mean, there is a real chance now that the New York Knicks could be headed toward the Eastern Conference Finals, which is not something I don't think anybody thought would happen based on the regular season results against good teams. Dexter, once again, thanks for coming on the show. So the Knicks are up 3-1. Jalen Brunson, look, Tatum was great until he got hurt, but Brunson has been the closer in every game the Knicks have played. They're one game away from getting this done. My only hesitation, I would say, Dexter, is the fact that Boston has been down this road so many times, trailing in series, and have come back to make things close. But the equalizer here would be if Tatum, who appears to be seriously hurt, if he's not playing, I think the series is over.
Yeah, I think it's a huge advantage for the Knicks. The Celtics are not the same team without Jason Tatum. Obviously, prayers up to Jason Tatum, and hopefully that he's okay. Non-contact injury, that's always tough to see with a player. But you also have to credit the Knicks. They have shown gritness is not a word, toughness, and resiliency throughout this series. You saw it in games 1 and 2. You saw it again last night. I think it was the most complete game the Knicks played in the series. I think it's the most complete game they've played throughout these playoffs. It is easily the Knicks' best playoff win in 25 years, which says a lot. And this team got a tremendous starting performance from their starting five. Just tremendous job. You talk about Brunson, you can talk about the 39. Mikal Bridges was big time in the fourth quarter, killing them in the mid-range. OG Anunoby hit big shots in this one. Karl-Anthony Towns bounced back from a struggle in the first half and I think played a very complete second half on both ends of the court. And then you also got to talk about Mitchell Robinson off the bench. He's been the difference maker in the series. He's been the best player, you can say the most impactful player in the series. So the Knicks, I think they're a product of showing you that sometimes, people say the regular season doesn't matter, and that's not true. It's about building good habits, getting ready for the playoffs. And I understand why a lot of people doubted the Knicks before the series. I picked the Celtics in 6, but the Knicks have shown that they're starting to come together as a group. They're believing in each other, and it just took some time. Sometimes when you have a lot of new pieces, Craig, it just takes time. And I think we're seeing that with the Knickerbockers right now.
By the way, what do you think the biggest win was before this playoff win in 25 years? I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you're going to say the win against the Heat, I'm going to get up to that.
No, I was actually going to say I was going to go back to 2000, the conference finals against the Pacers. Just getting there and that win. So after that, after that 99 finals run, Knicks did make the conference finals the next year. So they had some big wins along the way there. So yeah, it's been a quarter century since the Knicks have had this position where they can even be in the conference finals. And so that's why I say that. And I think if you're a Knicks fan, you're a fan of this team, you got to be really proud of what this team's accomplished thus far.
Yeah, definitely. Regardless of what would happen against Indiana or Cleveland if they do get there. But still, one more win to have. By the way, Knicks minus 620 on FanDuel at this point. Not bettable, but you could have gotten plus 600 or more before the series started. The Knicks to win the series, which is kind of crazy. Okay, so let's move on from this because not everybody cares about the Knicks. Let's do other teams too. Indiana takes on Cleveland tonight. Odds makers tonight on the FanDuel Sportsbook, Dexter, say Cavs win. They're 7.5-point favorites. The total is 230. I think from you and I's perspective, for like a content perspective, talking about this stuff, we're kind of like, we'd like the Cavs to win tonight, so extend this series. But, I mean, Indiana has just been unflappable throughout. And I got to tell you, I'm kind of hesitant laying big numbers against Indiana right now.
Yeah, I'd be hesitant too. Now, I do think the Cavs are going to play well tonight. Their backs against the wall. Obviously, the health of Donovan Mitchell, how's his ankle, that matters a ton too. But Cavs right now minus 7.5. I might be inclined to take the Pacers in the points, and why not? When you look at how they've played, how efficient they've been, I think the toughness of the Pacers. I think the two things you talk about with the Knicks and the Pacers thus far in the playoffs is how tough both of these teams have been, and the Pacers aren't going to back down. So I expect the Cavs to win, but I think it's going to be a close game. And so I would take the Pacers plus 7.5, take the Pacers in the points here because they've shown the fight. They've shown you if they get down big, they can fight back and win. We've seen that. So I love taking the Pacers in this spot, but I do think the Cavs will extend the series one more game. I think we all selfishly want that too, like you said, Craig.
Yeah.
But I just love the fight of this Pacers team, and I'm not counting them out. I think they've been actually disrespected a ton through this playoffs. That this Pacers team is good. They were in the conference finals last year. They pushed Boston and played a bunch of single-digit games against them, even though they got swept. This is a good Pacers team, and I think that they will fight and be looking to try to close this out. But I'll give the edge to the Cavs, but I like the Pacers in the points.
Okay. Yeah, and we say selfishly because one series is over, and that's Minnesota Golden State. I can't make any case right now for the Warriors after what I saw last night. Listen, Jimmy Butler's still a great player in the NBA, but maybe the Heat did the right thing by not extending him because honestly, that was the biggest moment of the season for him, and he only made 5 shots yesterday. Julius Randle's been great for Minnesota. It's a matter of when, not if, I think, for Minnesota, as I think they're going to head back for the first time. Is it ever or the second time ever for the Western Conference Finals? Second time, right?
Second. No, third time for them actually. Third, because last year was the second time they made it, and then this will be third if they win this year. They did go once with KG Sprewell and Wally Zerbiak one time, so third time for the franchise. I'm with you. I just think Minnesota showed last night when the game was close and they blew it open in the third quarter. They're just too deep. The Warriors don't have enough right now offensively that you can trust. Would you have liked a bigger game from Jimmy Butler? Yes, but I'm not even sure he could have that much would have helped. He needs more help on his team, and they just don't have that. They need the role players to step up. They don't have enough there. So Minnesota's rolling right now. They look good. I agree with you. I think that series is over. I think Minnesota wraps it up in 5.
Yeah, and we hear zero discussion of, will Steph Curry not play? That's a bad sign. Like, you're not even hearing it as a possibility. All right, so this is the odd line of the night, without a doubt, which has me leaning toward taking and laying the big number tonight with Oklahoma City. 10.5-point favorites against the Denver Nuggets in a series that has been very competitive. I'm no fool here. This looks like a fishy line here to me, Dexter. So it's like everyone, I think, is just going to run to take Denver in the points here, but they make these lines for a reason.
I would take Denver in the points because I think Denver, sort of like the Pacers, have shown you that they can keep things close. And the other thing I like about this in terms of the points and why I think it's interesting that it's minus 10.5 favoring OKC is that Denver has really changed the pace in the series, and they've really been able to slow things down, which I think is advantageous to Denver. So maybe you want to look at the over-under in this matchup. Could the Thunder blow out the Nuggets? Sure. And I wonder if the odds makers are looking a little bit at the fatigue factor here for the Nuggets. The Nuggets basically played 6 players in the last game. They did play 8 players, but only one player off the bench had double digits minutes, and that was Russell Westbrook. So I wonder if there's a little bit of a concern that the fatigue might affect the Nuggets, but I still trust the Nuggets to keep it close. I think they know this is a swing game. I think they'll come out and fight. I like the Nuggets plus 10.5 here.
So last night, the NBA lottery went off. Dallas with a 1.8% chance lands the first pick. They get Cooper Flag. Why would anybody even intimate that this is rigged or fixed or anything else? I don't. Why does this, by the way, happen every single year? People say, "Oh, it's rigged, it's fixed, etc." This is what. Why would the NBA want Dallas of all teams? This is just very good luck for them. No, like,
look, Craig, you and I, we've talked about the Luka trade on here, and I still don't understand that trade. But the conspiracy theorists are going to say, well, the NBA wanted Luka to be in LA, so the Lakers have their next star, and they promised the Mavericks the first pick. I don't think that's it. I think you're right. If there was going to be a conspiracy, it would be to get Cooper Flag to a bigger market than Dallas. No shade to Dallas. But Nico Harrison's not doing so bad right now. He'll have himself Cooper Flag with AD. Not doing so bad. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it feels like Nico Harrison, filed his taxes and got a huge refund after owing a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way it felt like
Yeah.
that. All right, Dexter. Great stuff as always. We'll catch up with you again next week. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it, man.
All right, Dexter Henry from the New York Post. We'll be back previewing the games tonight in the National Hockey League and recapping as well with Jo Madden. Don't go away.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I don't know what he was doing taking step back threes at the end of that regulation when he's got bigs on him and he should be driving to the hole.
It's already bad enough that I'm playing with all these NBA and D1 studs that are unstoppable, and I'm the worst one there, and I can still ball with them. But if I start calling fouls, they'll revoke my privileges. Like, I man up when I play with them.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're going to have the Stanley Cup Finals coming up here very soon. We're getting one step closer based on the outcomes of last night. We'll see if indeed two teams that went up big in their series will end up closing it out. Let's bring in Jo Madden of SportsGrid to break these games down. Joe, once again, appreciate you coming on. Let's start off with a series that was one of the bigger favorites going in to their best-of-7 series. That, of course, the Carolina Hurricanes. They beat the Washington Capitals last night 5-2. They're up 3-1 in the series. I know they were heavily favored, and even more so heavily favored on FanDuel. In fact, not bettable, okay? Minus 3,500 to win. I would assume, Joe, at some point they'll just close this out, whether it's the next game or the game after that. But I guess I would ask you this question. Is Carolina a real threat for the Cup at this point?
I do think they're a real threat. With what we've seen out of them, they're finding a way to get things done versus the Washington Capitals. And we know how strong the Capitals were during the regular season. One thing that really stands out for me is in last night's game, how they found a way to finally get those shots, limiting the block shots that the Washington Capitals did put on them, because that's been what we've been seeing out of the Capitals. They've had 30 or something block shots in most of these games. And last night, the Washington Capitals only able to block 23 shots. And we did see Carolina just completely peppering the net last night, 37 shots on goal. So I do look at this Carolina team. They're a complete team out there. And I did have some question marks around Frederik Andersen, how he would be in the postseason. We know he's had postseason issues before, but he's definitely playing such a strong game out there between the pipes.
Now, meanwhile, another series could be coming to an end, and no surprise, the Oilers are making another run again, Joe. They shut out Vegas Golden Knights last night, 3-0. They're up 3-1 in the series, also heavily favored to move on. And at this point, I mean, I guess it's fair to say, Joe, that, you know, all the adversity that they went through a year ago against the Panthers, going down 0-3, coming back to tie, it's really helping them around this time.
Oh, it absolutely is. You look at the Edmonton Oilers and what they're able to do last night versus the Vegas Golden Knights. And I didn't expect Stuart Skinner to be able to get a shutout in this series. He played a fantastic game, but that defense really played solid in front of him, really limiting the Vegas Golden Knights' ability to get those shots on goal. We did see a goal out of Henry and Evander Kane in last night's game. 2 goals actually out of Henry, showing that the Edmonton Oilers have that depth. They've got scoring up and down these lines. We saw Corey Perry in last game be able to get those 2 goals as well. So it's just not all about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And if this team wants to go deeper into the postseason, they have to have those other lines being able to convert out here. And now as for Vegas, Adin Hill just hasn't looked like himself. And I do have concerns about this team because neither team was able to convert on that power play last night. And you would have expected Vegas to be able to do so versus Edmonton. But Edmonton's ability to lock down defensively with this explosive offense, it looks like they're going to take this series as it heads back to Vegas.
And meanwhile, Joe, do you like Edmonton to potentially win the West like they did a year ago? They're plus 105 on the FanDuel Sportsbook.
As a Flames fan, I absolutely do not like it, but my money will have to be on Edmonton, seeing how strong they are playing right now, with Skinner looking this solid between the pipes. And we know that Pickard, when he came out between the pipes in place of Stuart Skinner, was able to play solid as well. So it looks like Edmonton's getting everything together at the right time out here. The LA Kings did everyone a disservice, not taking them out quick and early in that last round when they were unhealthy, but a healthy Edmonton team is definitely dangerous.
Meanwhile, a lot of folks are saying that Winnipeg's got to get a win tonight against Dallas. Dallas is up 2-1 in the series, pretty heavily favored tonight, minus 152 over on FanDuel. Total 5.5. Does Dallas take another step forward, Joe, or is there a chance Winnipeg ties this up?
You know, this is a hard one because you look at the Winnipeg Jets and you look at their ability to bounce back off of losses, and it's been here in the playoffs. But the one thing that hasn't been there is the road wins. Connor Hellebuck out there on the road has absolutely struggled this postseason. But when we do look at the Winnipeg Jets, when this team is completely clicking out there on the ice, I do think they are one of the best teams here in the postseason. They have to get over these road struggles that they've been having. Dallas is a really complete team out there. We don't talk enough about the fact that Jake Ottinger has allowed some goals in. Now, they had a great win in that last one, but Jake Ottinger hasn't been as strong as I would have expected him out there either. So looking at this game tonight, I'm expecting Winnipeg to really bring their A game. Their backs are up against a wall. They can't go down another game and take this series back home and face elimination at home in that next one. I'm looking for the Winnipeg Jets to just bring everything they've got. We know this team in the regular season was best out there on the power play. They'll need to find a way to contain Mikko Rantanen of the Dallas Stars. And if they can contain Mikko Rantanen, if Connor Hellebuck can stand tall between the pipes, this should be a lower scoring game and one that the Winnipeg Jets can win.
Yeah, and Joe, this has been the Mikko Rantanen series, of course. And anytime goal tonight, plus 140 on FanDuel. It's 1+ point. We would assume he'll get that. It's minus 290, 2+ points, plus 180, 3+ points, plus 600. Any position of those, Joe, or we just pass?
You know what? I would look at Mikko Rantanen. I would look at him for the anytime goal. I do think the Winnipeg Jets defensively, this is such a solid defense. They will be able to slow him down. I kind of question if he will get as many opportunities, but we know the weakness of Connor Hellebuck has been out there on the road between the pipes, and Mikko Rantanen has been able to hit him. He's leading the postseason with 18 points, 9 of those being from that goal. So I would look at the value on the goal tonight for Mikko Rantanen, but going deeper for the Dallas Stars, Wyatt Johnston has been able to score those goals at home. He's been nice and solid. So I would look there. And on the other side for the Winnipeg Jets, you got to look at Ehlers to continue to roll nice and hot. And then Kyle Connor, if he can get a nice little wraparound goal again on Jake Oettinger, it would be great to see in this series for Winnipeg Jet fans.
All right, Joe. NHL season is going to be all over. They're going to raise the cup in about a month. But yet, on FanDuel, we have 4 teams that are just right within one another to win the cup in terms of odds. Like, you just don't, there's no favorite here. Edmonton plus 280, Carolina plus 320, Dallas plus 340, and the Panthers are 4-1. So, like, at this point, they're telling us this is wide open as we head toward the Stanley Cup finals in the conferences.
This is absolutely wide open, and I would look at the reigning Stanley Cup champs and the Florida Panthers and look for them to be able to get it done. We know how solid this team can be defensively, offensively, and in goal. It's the team I have the most faith in out there, Greg.
4-1, says Jo Madden. All right, Joe, great to see you again. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, coming up next, we wrap it all up. LeBron James weighs in on the NBA draft lottery, and also Travis Hunter flies back to Colorado. We'll have that for you next.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I don't know what he was doing taking step-back threes at the end of that regulation when he's got bigs on him and he should be driving to the hole.
It's already bad enough that I'm playing with all these NBA and D1 studs that are unstoppable, and I'm the worst one there, and I can still ball with them. But if I start calling fouls, they'll revoke my privileges. Like, I man up when I play with them.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Before we wrap it up for today, a miracle for the Dallas Mavericks last night in the NBA draft lottery. Also a really nice story to end the show on Travis Hunter. But unfortunately, we start off with a super fan getting super jail time. Time now for some last licks. You may remember this guy from several years ago, Chiefsaholic, one of the biggest Chiefs fans in the world, showing up to games, getting dressed up in his gear, was very popular at the stadium and amongst fans as well, until he made a really bad decision. In fact, he was accused and now has been convicted of robbing a bank. This is true. He was caught, and he's been waiting on sentencing time, and he got it officially today. His name, Xavier Babudar, in Oklahoma, was sentenced today, folks, to a long prison sentence, 32 years in prison. He was caught 2.5 years ago as he fled from a bank robbery, and so not going to make light of this one, needless to say. A very sad ending coming from Kansas City here in Oklahoma for Chiefsaholic. Don't blame me for telling the story. Blame Frank, my producer. All right, now a better story here as we end on. What in the world happened last night at the NBA draft lottery? This is happening a lot in sports, by the way, if you haven't noticed. The baseball draft lottery went to Washington. Last night's NBA draft lottery goes to the team that had arguably one of the smallest chances to get the number 1 overall pick. It was the Dallas Mavericks. A 1.8% chance to get the top pick overall. And by the way, the consensus is that Cooper Flag is going to be the number 1 pick. He'll probably go to Dallas. What was LeBron James's reaction? Well, a lot of emojis, as you can see there. Naturally, LeBron has nothing to complain about because he's got Luka Doncic on his team. But LeBron certainly has a way with emojis. And last night, and a lot of other people thought it was kind of funny that Dallas, basically what is perceived to be making a horrible trade, ends up, in fact, getting the number 1 overall pick and gets a bailout, so to speak, by getting Cooper Flag. Now, look, I am not one of those people that believes in all this conspiracy stuff. Now, is it possible that 40 years ago, or whatever it was, that the Knicks got the number 1 overall pick and got Patrick Ewing? Maybe that's possible. Maybe that one. I'll give them that. But since then, I'm just not a believer. I think that the ping pong balls go where they go, and you get who you get. You don't get upset. All right, finally, very funny story here by a woman that told her story on social media. She was in Florida and on a plane, and she said that she ended up meeting somebody sitting next to her on a plane and had no idea who it was. And she ends up striking a conversation, which I'm sure you've, can relate to the story before. You go on a plane, you sit next to somebody, you start talking. And it turns out the woman has no idea. She's flying in the on the flight. And it turns out she is next to some football player. And this football player is going back to the University of Colorado for his graduation. And it turns out to be first-round pick Travis Hunter of the Jacksonville Jaguars. In fact, she said, quote, "I had the most wonderful flight home from Denver. I met the nicest young man who sat next to me. He offered to put my bag in the overhead compartment and help me with my tray. He was always polite, saying yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am. Anyone would be proud to have him as a son or grandson. So polite." Travis Hunter on a flight back. I think we've all had our brushes with celebrity flights. I mean, they do, most of them, not all of them, do fly just like us. And kind of funny to hear this happen. And certainly great news that Hunter got his graduation at the University of Colorado before he plays in the National Football League, which is this coming season, by the way, folks. The NFL season is going to be here before you know it, just a few months away. All right, coming up next, we got Smiley. And PGA Championship is this week, so we'll have a full preview on our show of that with Brady Cannon coming up tomorrow and Thursday. But coming up next, after Smiley, we've got Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock. He's got you ready for tonight's NBA games. We'll see if the Indiana Pacers can close it out against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm sure he'll have some great guests and opinions on that. And then our brand new show here on SportsGrid, it is Front Office Sports from 6 to 6:30, so make sure you check them out. That's followed by our game time decisions at 6:30. In-game live game day tonight at 8 o'clock, and then Gabe is officially on Sports Rage tonight. So make sure you check out all of our great shows here exclusively on SportsGrid and on NewsWire. So tomorrow here on the show, we'll be back with another edition of our great NewsWire program. And for those of you who may be watching, maybe for the first time, second time, you're wondering, hey, can I stream this show if I'm watching on a brand new TV? You can. Just take out your iPhone or Android, scan this QR code, download the SportsGrid app. We're streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the app has just been updated over the last 6 months, so no lags, no buffering. You can just watch our shows along with sports, help you get some tips on sports betting throughout the day and throughout the night as well. For my director, Luke, and my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Enjoy the rest of your day here on SportsGrid. We'll see you back here tomorrow for our next edition of NewsWire at 11 a.m. Eastern. Have a great one.